What are some of the biggest lessons and challenges that a global supply chain management firm experienced during its ERP implementation? That's the case study I'm going to dive into here today. Hello, my name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients throughout the world reach their third stage of digital transformation success. And I recently had a chance to attend Cloud World, which is Oracle's big implementation conference, or the big industry conference that they do each year. And one of the things that I got to do while I was at this conference, and one of the things I love to do at industry conferences in general, is to talk to customers directly, to learn about what their experience has been with their ERP implementations, what some of the challenges were, what they did well, what they would do differently if they could do it over again, as well as what sort of advice that they might have for organizations and teams that are about to go through a digital transformation or ERP implementation. So during this conversation, which I was able to capture on video, and they were kind enough to let me film the conversation with them, and by them, I mean Mike is the CIO from Americold Logistics, and I'll let him introduce himself here in just a moment. But during that conversation with him, we had the opportunity to dive into some of this, and this company is really interesting. They have several thousand employees. They are a supply chain management company, so they manage cooling warehouses primarily for food and beverage manufacturing, and I'll let him describe the company in a bit more detail. They recently implemented Oracle Fusion, was the ERP system that they were implementing. And whether you're implementing Oracle Fusion or any other ERP implementation, the lessons that we talk about in this video are extremely relevant, and there's some good lessons and takeaways that will apply to you. So let's go ahead and roll the clip of my interview with Mike Spires, who's the CIO of Americold Logistics. So Mike, tell me a little bit about Americold and what you do at Americold.
Americold is a cold storage REIT. So think of all the food in your freezer section, and we basically rent storage to that, and that's how we make money. So literally we're renting out space in a freezer. Customers also pay us to move it around and do some value-added services associated with it.
Okay. And what do you do at the company?
I'm the Chief Information Officer.
Okay. And you recently went through an Oracle Fusion implementation?
Yeah, we did pretty much most of the suite. We did ERP, we did HCM, we did PPM and EPM, so the reporting and the project management as well. So as a REIT, we actually manage large projects for building a 200,000 square foot freezer.
Right. And what was your role on the project? How were you involved as CIO?
So it's interesting. We ran this as a business project, which I think these really should be run as. And my role was really to make sure that IT and the business were coordinated throughout this, and that we really made good decisions, made them quickly, and adjusted when we had issues.
Now, what was the legacy environment that you were moving from when you moved?
Yeah, we had a really old SAP implementation. I can't even tell you how many years old it was. They've been highly customized. So, we were looking for something that could give us real-time data, and so we went through an RFP process and selected Oracle.
Okay. And when you evaluated Oracle and selected Oracle, was it difficult to make that decision to move off of a platform that you had been using for a certain amount of time, or was it pretty clear?
No, it really wasn't that difficult. People get used to doing things a certain way, but that really wasn't a big consideration because we would have had to change it regardless. And frankly, it was close, but I think we looked at Oracle's real-time reporting and some of the other capabilities that would give us that kind of won the day.
Right. So what sorts of business challenges were you trying to solve when you looked at this project and decided to go through it?
So Americold's a 100-year-old company, and we had 40-year-old systems, and we just could not make decisions based on real-time data. We were always looking in the rearview mirror, and not just like a week or two, and it was a month, right? So if something happened at the beginning of June, we really wouldn't be able to tell you until the middle of July, and that was a problem. And for those of you who aren't aware, the food economy has kind of slowed pretty dramatically in the last year. Our volumes are down 5 or 6% in some cases, and if you look at the large food providers, their volumes are down similarly. And what that does is it means we've got to schedule and shift employment differently, and look at how we staff the warehouses differently. And honestly, last summer when this started, it took us an extra amount of time, and we think going forward we'll be able to make those decisions pretty quickly.
Right. So when you think back and look back on the project, how long ago was it, by the way, that you went live?
It started September of 2023, and we went live in May. We had a little 3-month delay while we kind of dealt with a cyber event, which was another interesting experience.
Yeah, right in the middle, as if you didn't have enough going on already.
Exactly.
You had that run in there too. So it's relatively recent in your memory then, I assume, the whole implementation. What were some of the biggest lessons that you learned? Like, what kind of battle scars do you have now walking away from that implementation?
I think you cannot over communicate with people in terms of how much the change is going to be. And I think, you can prep all you want, but until people are on the system, it's not real. And you really do need to go back and sort of reinforce some of that training that you did up front, as people are now realizing what questions they really have. Because when they do it beforehand, it's still not real to them, so they don't really think about it in a good way. So after implementation, actually having follow-on training immediately, I think would have helped a lot.
Yeah. So the change management, communication, and all that.
Yes, very much so. And then I think just in general, also, we're a global company. We have offices in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and North America, and 2 in South America. And I think, we haven't done Europe yet. So we did the Americas, and we did Australia and New Zealand. And when you're on one platform, you kind of have to have one process, and everyone has to be aligned. And keeping, a geographical spread that far away, it's a 14 or 16-hour time difference. It can be difficult to stay in sync, and I think we could have done a better job of making sure everyone globally was on the same page.
That's interesting takeaway there for sure. It's funny how going through these, no matter how many times you go through, you always have something new you learn on top of that. Were you there when the company implemented SAP back?
No. That's well over a decade ago. Okay. I've been here about 18 months.
Okay. So what about companies and organizations and teams that are about to start an Oracle implementation? What sort of words of wisdom, or what's the biggest piece of advice would you give with that?
It comes back to the communication, right? Both internally to the program and how that means with, making decisions quickly. People need to know when they need to make a decision, and then they need to make it. Things go better when you make decisions quickly and you have alignment. So you've got to communicate and make sure that you have proper alignment. And then externally to your internal employees are going to use the system, making sure they understand the impact of their jobs. And, when you think about how much you work, their lives, right? And you really want to make sure that they get it. And again, that comes both before the implementation and then right after, and then actually continuously.
Right.
Because you want to make sure that you have good training for new employees, right? Yeah. It's got to be something that ends up being repeated until everyone's got it.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. Are you done with the journey now, would you say, or as you?
No, definitely not. Because again, we got to do Europe, and even in the Americas and Australia and New Zealand, we're still kind of tweaking things that we didn't realize the implications of some of the decisions that were made up front. Nothing major. The implementation was well above the bar, but we still got to get things exactly right, or as close to exactly right as possible.
Right. And of course, being at a conference like this, you start hearing of all the new innovations and capabilities that are being rolled out.
Looking at AI and stuff like that, our AI strategy is to leverage our partners. Oracle and other partners have invested a lot of money in use cases for AI for their software. It doesn't make sense for me to try and stand up enterprise AI, at least until I've leveraged the cases that are built into the software.
Yeah, which is always going to be growing, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Good. Well, I appreciate your time today, Mike. Really appreciate your time.
Right, thank you very much.
Lessons. Thank you.
All right.
So that was a really interesting conversation. I'd love to hear what you think. What were some of your key takeaways and lessons that you learned from Mike in the conversation there? What are some of the lessons that apply to your ERP implementation? Love to see your feedback in the comments below, so be sure to drop them there. And if you'd like to learn more about how to make your Oracle ERP implementation successful, you can download our guide to Oracle Fusion implementations. It's a white paper that gives you a bunch of best practices and lessons and tech-agnostic view of how to make your Oracle implementation more successful. Or if you're not sure that you're going to be implementing Oracle, or you might be implementing a different type of technology, I also encourage you to check out our annual digital transformation report. It's a report that covers a number of best practices, lessons, independent reviews, and rankings of different ERP systems in the marketplace. You can also download that by scanning the QR code right in front of you. You can also check the links below for both of those white papers, as well as some other resources that we've provided to you. So I hope you found this information useful and hope you have a great day.